How's a sweeping miners? Today we got a very special version of Minesweeper, as you can see by the count over there. This is called a mega sweeper, and we're gonna see pretty immediately what seems to be the problem here. So we got negative mines, and it works about like you would think. So you see this corner is a -1. Just click once for normal mine, click twice for negative mine. Now that's satisfied because the thing adds up to -1. So clear everything around it and whatnot. We see this 0 here. That means that the amount of positive and negative mines surrounding it need to add up to 0. So this one has to be positive. And that's 2, so it's solved. And it it goes from here. See, this negatives, this corner, this has to be positive, and because this one next to it sees both the negative and the positive one, then this one has to be safe. Then see, this has this one in the corner here is seeing these two that add up to 0, but then also sees this positive, so it's at 1. Then you can see the same thing here. This is 1, but there's 2 positive mines around it, so it needs to be a negative to balance it out. This -1, the cording kind of gives stuff away for you, because you have to see that, say this is -1, it already has a -1, but it's not solved because there has to, or not because there has to be, but because there is one positive and one negative on the right there somewhere, but I don't know where that could be. So we'll have to solve around it and try and figure it out. This is positive and negative, so it has to have one of those. The 0 has to have at least a negative somewhere in here, could have also a positive and negative. So this has to have a negative mine within these two, meaning that this could not have anything here, because if it had, say, another negative, then this wouldn't be right, and if it had a positive, then you could, well, this could be true, but it wouldn't be true for the one above it, so this has to be clear. And then this one has to have a negative there, so it has to have a positive. These go from here. This one is clear, and then that negative was there. See if this one is okay. These zeros are solved. And this negative, see, it has 2 positive, 2 negative, so it goes to 0. This 1 is solved. This -1, there's a negative mine somewhere in there. Don't know. 0, this has to be positive, but this isn't finished. This -1 is actually safe, so there's that. This is 1 looking at 2 positives, so it needs to have the negative. This negative, this one has to have a positive here so that it adds up to 1. And then this -2 only sees 2, so it has to be like that. This one solved. These ones around are around a negative, so they have to have 2 positives underneath. But I don't know where that is. But you see, because this one is at like a 0 right now, right? Or whatever, point being, it needs 2 positive mines underneath it. Well, I guess it can't be true. That I'm trying to figure this out but it's not very easy. Okay, this is actually solved because this -1 has 3 spaces around it and has a positive, so it needs to go down 2, so these both have to be negative, and that probably solves this -2, yeah, which also solves this one, and then hopefully I can solve down here. Same thing with this, where it's looking at 3, it needs to have 2 negative and a positive. That also solves the 0. And then we get this, and this is all normal Minesweeper for a second. It's a hot commodity here. This too, I think it just has to be 1 positive because it couldn't have enough negatives to counteract if there was one here. And then this one I think is safe, yeah. And then this, normally, regular Minesweeper, these would be, like this 2 and this 2 would both be seeing these, so all of these would be safe, but there could just be a positive and a negative, which hitting either a positive or a negative mine is just a loss like normal. So we don't know. These 2 just has to be this has to be a negative, and that clears all of that. This 4 is normal, this 3 is normal, this 1 has to have this. There has to be a positive there, but I don't know where. Is this 3 just solved? So are these. It's positive, so it solves all that. This has to be a negative on the corner, and that has to be positive. This one is... Okay, so it's at 0, so it's just positive there. Is that 2 solved? Yes, it is. This 3 is normal. This one has a positive somewhere. This has positive somewhere. Oh, that's just open. Okay. So this 2 is at 1, so that has to be the case. And then this 1 is at 2, so it has to have a negative. And then there's a positive here somewhere, which means that it can't be this. Yeah. Okay, so it's there. 0, 0. You're looking at a negative, so that's positive. Clear that. There's 2. Okay, how do we get this? This one, okay. That was just solved. There's -3. -3. Cool. That's negative. It's positive. Does this just get cleared? Yes, it does. Cool. -1 on the top. It's -1. Let's see, there's a positive in here. Meaning that looking at this one, there can't be any more than 1 positive and 1 negative because there's only 3 spaces, so it can't even out past that. Meaning that if there has to be a positive here, and there can't be a negative here, otherwise this one would be a -1, that's not right, so the negative has to be here, and that also solves this probably. Yeah. So then the positive's just there. This one is going to have something to solve it. That one has some amount of things in there, but that's the negative. And this one needs 1 of something in there. There's a negative somewhere in here, but that doesn't solve this -1 because, again, there could be a positive and a negative in here, or it could just be clear. We don't know, but that gets solved. Okay, can we actually figure this? I don't even know if it immediately helps me at all, but I just want to know that there's this negative here. So yeah, this has to be safe. Okay, and this negative solves. That's... So wait, this is at -1, so it needs this. Yeah, right, and then it solves that 3, and I guess a lot past it. 1. Okay, because this isn't solved, there has to be a positive and a negative there. So because this one is already at that, there's 1 positive mine somewhere here. Which means that for this one, because there's just 1 positive here, this would be at 0 with this negative, so this has to be positive. Let's see for that. That's not solved. Alright. 0, -1, that just hurts as normal. This is at 0, so this is positive. 2, 3, you're safe, and you need... So that was the one that looking at. So there's a positive and a negative within these two, but not sure where. And because this is 1, and that's solved there, I think this is safe. Yeah. 0, there's a negative somewhere in there, and then... Yeah, that's it. It's just... Okay, it's actually solvable, because this 2 has to have just 1 positive by it. It can't have a negative, so that means that this has to be the negative. And then this is the positive, and then that's clear, and then that's positive. This has somewhere there. Let's solve this bottom cube, I guess. 3, that's normal minesweeper. You're just 2. Wow, that was all normal. Okay. You're positive because of the 1s, and then there's negative because of the 0s. The -1 needs an extra 1. And then this one is a -1, so it needs these both to be cleared. The 0 is solved. This one is positive. Okay. The 0 at the bottom needs a negative, and then the one right above it would be at 0 with one of these being a negative. So this needs to be positive. And is that good? Yes, it is. That's negative, and then that corner's done. This 3 solves that. Get to see it's at 0, so that's positive. This 2 is at 1, so we need that. These are normal 3s. This 1 solves. And then once you get down to things like this, you can start really taking advantage of the fact that you have 2 mine counts and being able to see, like, you see how there's only one negative mine left, so if I can find where the negative has to be, everything else is normal minesweeper, and it'll probably be a lot easier to solve. So firstly, looking at this 3, it's 3 positive, 1 negative, so it is at 2, so it needs 1 positive to find. Because this 3 next to it needs 1, well, I guess this 2 just is canceled out, so it just needs those 2. That was the easy way to figure that out. 4, there's 1 positive there. This 4, or like 5, well, I guess the negative is somewhere in here because this 0 needs it. So then everything else is 1, 2, 3. I don't want to try and like, well, actually, okay, this isn't, yeah, that's how that is. Then there's a negative there, but there's just ways of figuring this out. This 5, looking at these 2, so it needs to be 1 there, and that'll solve that 3, so this is safe. And okay, because, well, there's that 1. I was gonna say, because the O's were both looking at the middle there, then the negative had to be down that split, but we figured it out anyways. And that's it.